I know that everyone for this show auditions, and I haven't read what your audition scenes were. So I'm wondering if you can tell me what
Oh,
those were and what you knew about Tim going into it.
I knew absolutely nothing. It wasn't a scene. It was one speech. It was a very strange day for me. I'm not used to auditioning. I haven't done it for decades. Not that I'm too grand to audition. People don't ask me. I don't mind auditioning because then you get to play things that people don't. I get cast for things I guess that people have seen me do before, which I don't want to do. So it's nice for me to audition for things because you go, look, I could do something else. But I was asked to read, but I suddenly got all nervous and flustered, and I had to walk to the. I'm not sorry. I was in New York. I walked to the audition through Times Square. I was in Archie, the television series about Cary Grant. I was playing Cary Grant, and there were billboards of me, like 1 million foot high, multiple billboards. And I guess anybody else looking at them would think, "Hey, he's landed. He's all right." I'm like, no, I'm going into this room to audition on tape with the casting assistant, like anybody else. And it was the speech when we were first at the villa, and Pam, our fabulous weekly guru, said, "I'm going to work out biometric things for everybody." And it was quite a long speech. And I left thinking, God, I haven't got any fucking better at this in all the years that and I'm not got it. I thought I'm not, walk past myself on a billboard going, well, I just blew an audition.
So you knew nothing about him other than he's the dad of these guys and
Rich
he's a
guy.
Southern
Yeah, rich guy.
mogul. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I read that you talked with your psychiatrist brother about sort of what it would be like if someone's popping lorazepam all day. Um, how did that help you gauge sort of, his speech patterns, his physicality throughout these scenes?
Oh, well, it was completely useless. Well, the thing is, lorazepam takes all your anxiety away. And
Right.
that's what it's an anti-anxiety medication. So what I did was, in many ways, pharmaceutically inaccurate, except for this, which is that sometimes people take, sometimes people have a bad trip on acid. And this is a man whose the anxieties are, immeasurable. Like the abyss is opening up, and it's a man for whom there is always a solution. Like money is the solution. He can knock any problem out of the way by throwing lawyers at it, jamming it up in court, probably phoning the newspaper editor, getting the story spiked. If it's illegal, paying a fine, possibly getting his friend the president to give him a pardon. I mean, there's many ways around it for people like him. There's never been a problem he couldn't solve. Something Mike and I worked on together to calibrate it, so at least the full abyss isn't there till episode 3 or something. There is nowhere back from it, but his brain can't stop. Then playing out what's going to happen, the different scenarios. It starts with the golf club, the most trivial of things, and then where are we going to live? What are we going to eat? Who am I going? Who will somebody lend me money? Why would they lend me money? I'll never get back to them. And who will my erstwhile enemies who I crushed? What will they make of this? And what's going to be in prison? So I needed to have my mind firing on 1 billion, pinball cylinders in every direction. But this drug slows you down. And so I just, it also uninhibits you. Mike didn't want the family to know what was going on. So that was a relationship between me and the audience. And then I just imagined he's the 1 in 1 million people for whom that medication doesn't work.
And I read that you said that the most challenging part, wasn't the accent. It was calibrating sort of where he was, from scene to scene because you were filming so many scenes out of sequence. And I'm wondering, was there, like, what is sort of the wildest back-to-back day you had or back-to-back even
Oh,
hours
God.
of switching mindset?
Every day, because I walk through a door. I'd walk through a door from episode 8 in February, and I walk out the other side in August. Or you'd be shooting scenes back to back, and like this is from episode 3, and now the next scene is from episode 7, and now this is from episode 6. Like, and where in that episode have I taken 6 pills that day or no pill? Or I've just spoken to the lawyer, so I can't be horribly inarticulate and slurring. Oh no, this is the scene after I can't stand up, and every day. But actually, the challenge was a twofold challenge, or maybe simplifying it into numbers doesn't really work. But the technical challenge of how out of my head am I is one thing, because this is out of sequence. And also, how do I get to that place where I'm suicidal or why I want to kill my family? I mean, the thing about acting is you really have to believe it. If I don't believe it, the audience doesn't believe it. And other people are having more fun things, like the 3 girls who have those conversations that we've all had. Your friend goes out of the room and you go, I don't want to be mean, but he's really, so that gossipy stuff is very realistic and close to everyone's experience. I had to be on the edge of my entire existence. Like everything that I am is stripped away. And I know it's a stupid thing to say, but I'm not pretending. I mean, I am pretending, but I'm trying to be it as much as possible because that's what the camera picks up. You can't really lie to a camera. There's a level of pretending. You're not dying, and when you punch people in the face, you're missing and stuff. But when you're crying, you're sad. I mean, you can stick things in your eyes and stuff, but mostly when people are crying, they're sad. when people are shouting, they're angry. I mean, that's what that's what acting is. So it was a much bigger challenge, yes, to do it out of sequence, but to be Tim and to love my family enough to think they would be better off if I killed them, to be in that disturbed state of mind.
And did you get to experience the twist of like, whenever we first see Tim shoot himself or shoot Victoria, we don't know as an audience that that's a dream sequence. Did you get the experience of reading that and being like, oh my God, I'm doing this in whatever episode? Or did you know up
Yeah,
front?
yeah. Like, no, I didn't know I made the end. He gave me the scripts, Mike, and I'm reading them through, and I go, I'm dead. I guess I'm not going to be in title. Oh, no, I'm not dead. Okay. And then later on, I'm like, oh, shit, that's when he kills himself and he shoots his son. I'm like, oh, fucking Mike. I'm not sure the order it was edited in, but the second time when I shoot Victoria, I shoot my wife, and I shoot Patrick, in the story, in the edited version that the audience saw, they knew I didn't have the gun anymore. They knew that Guy Talk had come and got the gun back. So I think they must have known, unless they weren't paying attention, that was a fantasy sequence. But either I hadn't noticed it when I was reading it, because I did read everything, but I didn't want to know other people's stories because Tim doesn't know other people's stories. I haven't played Suicidal that many times, and you've got to believe it, because the audience, you've got to look at this guy and go, he's ready to kill himself. Well, mostly those are moments people have alone in life, and it's very rare that anyone does it in front of anyone else. And there aren't many new things left for me as an actor. That was new and horrible.
I mean, I don't know if it's too much to ask you. How did you get into that mindset? Is there anything you can share about that? Or is it just, you just had to get there?
First of all, nobody really needs to know how the sausage is made, what people think of it, but there is no trick. I guess some people may look at voted off their dead relative. You have to be suicidal. When I was younger, I guess I from the out in when I was a very young actor, when I first started doing it as a student. And then I learned from much, much better actors than me that that's not what it is. You fill this thing up from the inside out, not the outside in. What is the Frank Zappa quote? Talking about music is like dancing about architecture or something. I don't know, singing about, I don't know. Well, it's just, I don't know. I could try and talk about, when I was in the Harry Potter films, we all did a million interviews over the course of the years. And one of the questions always asked, why do you think Harry Potter's so succcsul? And I fell into the same trap as all my, esteemable colleagues, and I'm start talking about the themes of Fred. No one fucking knows. Why did season 3 of the White Lotus somehow capture the world's attention, and people were talked about it, had viewing parties, and I think Mike's a magnificent writer and director, and I thought the work other people were doing was brilliant as actors, but no one really knows why something just spreads like that in the zeitgeist and all over the planet. It wasn't just America and England and stuff. It was every country. Nobody knows. If they did know, believe me, they'd be bottling it and repeating it in Hollywood. So in the same way, people talk about acting, but you can't talk about acting. Yeah. You talk about some of the stuff you do in research. You can talk about the technical things about accents and being drugged up and stuff. I can tell you what the character feels, but the really great stuff, and this is a tribute to Mike, not to me. Really great stuff that happens on screen is when you're watching a character and they're saying or doing one thing. I didn't get to say very much. They actually mean something else. They're hiding something from everyone around them, but they're driven by a third thing that we, the audience, understand about them, but they don't understand about themselves. They're on a journey that we as gods are aware of that they're not. That only happens with great writing and great direction, and if you're surrounded by great people. And I think that happened a lot in White Lotus.
Obviously, the scene with Lachlan's near death, where you're great in that, obviously, and we understand, everyone knows or can imagine that feeling of a parent thinking that oh my God, I just killed my son. But I think...
Can they? I don't know. My head was... It was new for me. That's not something I've thought about a lot. Oh my God, I've killed my child. I lost my kids when they were little a couple of times in the supermarket, but I didn't hold their dead body in my arms. That's something I hope that most people never get to do. I'm just there imagining that Lachlan was... And by the way, I love Sam, the role that played I love all those kids. They're really special people. And I love him, and I just held him and imagined he was dead,
Yeah. Well, where I was going with that was just that you were great in those scenes, but what I really love are those scenes where the camera, it's the quieter moments, like where Victoria is telling you that she doesn't want to survive, she wouldn't want to live if she was poor. And we just see it on your face, the tears in your eyes, and just kind of, we can see what's going through your head. What makes the White Lotus kind of special is like those little moments that we aren't expecting. They're quieter. And I know that people have said that Mike loves silence.
There was a screening of the last episode that they flew us all out. So I came to Los Angeles for, and it was in front of an audience. Like I knew that lots of people were watching it, but you don't watch it with lots of people. There's a scene in the last episode where Piper, played so brilliantly by Sarah Catherine, comes back from the monastery and she goes, you know what? I am a spoiled princess. I just can't live without the luxury. And I remember, I get this kind of memory loop back when I don't normally watch myself except at premieres. So I'm watching myself and remember how tragic that felt to me, because I think, fuck, he's a very patriarchal man. So his daughter is this special thing, and he's going to have to kill his daughter because she can't face life. And obviously he's in a disturbed mindset, but he thinks, I'm going to have to kill her. And the camera goes from her and pans to me. And I just remember how sad I felt. And the audience pissed themselves laughing. Everybody falls out of their seat because when they see, oh God, Tim's thinking, oh God, she's on the list as well. I'm like, what's the matter with you people? And then I realized that's the genius of Mike White. It's all those things at the same time. I had to be heartbroken for them to have a laugh. Yeah, it was a joy watching it with an audience. I wish I'd seen all of it in an audience, and I realized how many more times he managed to do that to people watching. Because when you watch it at home, you don't have those vocal responses in the same way.
And I've also heard that he loves to shout out suggestions from behind the monitor. You've said, there are some outrageous ones. Can you give me examples of something that you thought initially he yells at, you're like, okay, that's crazy, but let's give it a go. And you're like, well, shit, that is perfect. Like, he knows what he's doing, or anything come to mind?
This is so awful. You might want to cut this. There's a point at which they go, was this Mike's idea or mine? I can't remember. There's a bit where we have to go to the party. We're going to the party at Gary's house, and I'm completely out of my head. And Saxon says, come on, are you ready? And I go, I think this was a cut from the original, but I got to get dressed. And they go, you're dressed? And I go, I got to change my something. And I just went back in and I took another pill. And I can't remember if this is Mike's or my idea. He goes, try something, shock them, And she goes, you ready to go? And I go, I got to go take a giant shit. Because Tim doesn't say things like that. He's very proper. Right. I burst out laughing. The crew burst out laughing. But he didn't use it in the end because I didn't go back in the room. But I'm not sure that was one of his. That might have been mine, actually. I don't know. I can't remember. He shrieks. He kind of has this fantastic laugh, this kind of demonic cackle when you're saying, often when you're doing something really serious that he finds hilarious. And then he goes, come on, tell her, upset her, tell her she shouldn't just... And he just shouts out. I can't remember what the suggestions are because, like I say, I'm in a zone. I'm like, I'm not registering it. I'm trying to be open to. The other thing with Mike is he doesn't get credit for being the director that he is. So in the show, he gets plenty of credit. The show's a huge success, and but people talk about him as a writer. If anybody else directed it, it would never be as rich because of those things, because of the way he shouts out, and because of when he cuts, the way he gives you notes as well. His suggestions as notes are so gently offered up. They're like soap bubbles. They'd burst if you looked at them too closely. So he would bring but if you asked me what the specific things were, I probably shouldn't tell you anyway. What it ended up with was exactly what it needed to be. It's like every episode was an hour and a half and then it cut to an hour. Yeah. We all lost loads of stuff. Everybody lost stuff that they loved. It ends up as the perfection that it was. And so it doesn't help for the audience to know what wasn't in it.
Well, I do know that also he likes to shoot things different tones, so he has options in editing. You don't know how the story's going to combine. Yeah. So is there? Can you think of a time when you had to do a scene just two completely different tones? I've
never done that before in this way at all. Well, one of the things I think I get hired for, I mean, all actors think this, is my choices, my decisions, and particularly no one else is as in charge of, listen, I remember what mood I was in February and walked through that door. I can get myself back there for when I walk through it in a set in Bangkok in August, it's meant to be in my bedroom. But with Mike, he goes, can you do one funnier? Can you do one slower? Can you do one faster? Can you do one where you don't care? You do one, and like, normally I wouldn't be rude and say no, but you go, this is my bit that I do. But with him, A, because he's so brilliant, he could play every part better than anybody he cast, including the women. But B, because he's in the end going to be putting this piece together with so many different spinning plates, you go, yeah, okay, fine. You get in my head, you crawl into my head with me and be part of the creative decision-making process. You don't normally let directors do that because they've got too many other things to think about. And that's why they've hired you, because you know your stuff.
The scene whenever you're with Piper and he's talking about being an altar boy and you start singing Lo How a Rose Are Blooming, and there's just like the hint of a smile that sort of feels like a second of peace for him at a time when he's had none.
Yeah, he's remembering a time when he's looking at his daughter and he's, she despairs and leaves the room because he's just gone off somewhere. The drugs are really kicking in. It's a time when life was simple before he married someone who's obsessed with status, before he had kids, before he had to maintain his state, for the obligation on him to make himself powerful and rich and to stay more powerful and rich than other people. And I'm so glad you recognized that it comes back to the same song at the end, because I had to redub that because I was muttering it to myself on the day because I knew we were going into the song. And then when they decided not to, they said, can you sing it more clearly? So I went into the studio, but my mouth doesn't really move. So I had to sing it clearly. It was quite technical. I had to sing it enough that you would try and remember it. You would remember it by the end of the show. The thing about dubbing, I'm good at it technically because I do lots of voiceovers and documentary voiceovers and animation stuff, is that when you're doing a scene, you want something from the other people, you know, or even in a moment like that, I'm lost in my memory of myself as a child. When you go in and redub, you're looking at yourself.
I was wondering if there's anything about the climactic poison piña colada scene that, you know, you haven't shared before.
There's something I've not said about that scene. Yeah, it was one of the reasons I was worried about taking the job. I just didn't. I thought I'd watched the shows. You know, the White Lotus are full of fantastic acting. This was different. This is a Greek tragedy. I wasn't aware there'd been scenes like this. And as an actor, you relish and excited by big acting required, you know. And I spent many episodes worried that I would be the boring stoned person in the corner, and the audience wouldn't be on the journey with me. But I knew something very, very dramatic was coming. Not saying melodramatic. I knew I had to believe it. If I don't believe that I want to kill everybody I love for their sake, the audience is not going to believe it. And I just didn't know how to get there. And like I told you, I don't plan things. It's not like it goes where I go, oh, my voice will crack there, or I'll turn there and shout this. Like, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do. Mike gives you the time and space, and the crew, I loved the crew, and they were very respectful. On the days that you need the space, they give you the, you know, they'll quieten down and stuff. Yeah, I just remember thinking, I hope it comes. I hope, you know, is the muse female? Is that misogynist? I don't know. I hope she arrives. And I didn't know if it was going to be big or small. I didn't know how it was going to come out. I was worried. But I wanted to be as good as the writing deserved and as good as the show deserves. And I don't plan anything, so I got no fallback. You know, there's no safety net. I'm either going to make something believable or not. I still don't know if I made it believable. I got myself to a place where I believed it. I said, well, my initial conversations with Mike about two things. One is, how do I not be the extra from Cheech and Chong? Like, how am I just not be the guy sitting in the corner stoned? Like, I didn't ask him for more words or anything. I just went, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about I'd be the most boring person that's ever been in White Lotus. I'm going to sit in the corner just nodding off to sleep for 5 episodes. He goes, you won't be. And I'm like, no, it's easy for you to say. You can just cut away from me if I am, you know. You know, that was a challenge for me. And then I got to the end, and I didn't want to share with him that I was worried, like, you know, it's not so much that I'm not good enough. It's just that, you know, I've done big dramatic things before, but they're always scary. They should be scary. If you've got some way that, I know what I'll do the bit of that, and I'll take this off the shelf beam, I'll put, you know, this little widget in there, and I'll pull that face there. I don't know. There are actors like that, and they arrive and they've planned a performance. They've done it. They were so good in front of their bathroom mirror the night before, or with their acting coach, and they just repeat it, and they will repeat something they planned. And to me, it's what Peter Brook, the great theatre director, called dead theatre. You know, it's just, there's nothing happening that's alive in the moment. So it's always a bit scary to be alive in the moment. It's fun. But yeah, so that was my recollection of that day. That, you know, and the other thing is, like, your recollection of things is how you felt on the day. And I had a wonderful time there, many days in Thailand. There's people I love in the cast, and there's my actual family who I've always loved there. But my memory of being Tim is fucking miserable. No, it's really having a bad time. And as Tim, I had a really bad time.